couple more seconds. Two more people getting a step downstairs. So just very quickly, before we jump right into it, full house. Thanks everybody for coming along. This is, I'm really thrilled because we knew we had to sell out almost a week in advance, and it's great to see what we've got in our local community when it comes to wearables. And it didn't take much buzz to fill up the house, so this is a really exciting segment of our industry. And quick comment on our lightning pictures. We have a lot. And not only did we have a lot of great lightning pictures this time around, we actually had to say sorry to a few people just because it was such a popular event, but also so many related wearable technologies. And you'll see a few out on the lobby that aren't pitching today, specifically Snugvest. They've been here before, but please have a chat with Lisa if you get a chance. And just before we get off, please make sure that your non-wearable device is either off or not going to buzz. And let's take it from there. So thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Before it started, I'd like to introduce the new VEF board directors. We'd had our AGM, and new to our board this month, we have Erica Pretorius from Deloitte. We have Tyler Sigmund from Red Hook Games, and I'm going from memory because this is I got a slightly different one here, but also we have Tia from Wealth Bar, also new to the board, and we also have Heather Conradi from Van City joining us. So big warm welcome to them and to help us to continue to put on these events. This last slide, if we can bring that one back up, I've noticed that a lot of people come up to me at the end of events and say, Tim, that was a great show. And I really got to tell you, I don't put on these shows. This one is brought to you by Eric Broadbent and as well as Drew Gamble. These are members of our operations committee. And we're definitely going to make a point going forward of letting you know exactly who these people are. And this is the type of clout that these guys can have to put together a great panel for you. So a big round of applause for our two organizers for this event. Thank you very much. I can go on thanking all night, but let's just sort of cut that very quickly. One of our big sponsors here is Douglas College. And Douglas is the largest college in British Columbia, offering dozens of university transfer, diploma, applied degree, and post-degree programs. We actively encourage academic exploration to students to find the right fit for a great career. And we have a hands-on approach that emphasizes learning and doing, learning by doing. We think this makes Doug one of the best places in Canada to discover what you love to do and become good at it. Let's give Dave Moulton, if you can raise your hand, stand up right there. A big round of applause for supporting the VEF. One other feature sponsor this evening, I'd like to welcome the Vancouver Economic Commission's Brian Buggy to host the lightning pitches and get us right underway.
Thanks, everyone. Just a few words before we get started. I don't show of hands how many have heard of the Vancouver Economic Commission. A number of you. So you probably know we're an agency of the City of Vancouver, funded by the city, and we work hard every day to position Vancouver as a globally recognized city for its innovative, creative, and sustainable business community. And we do that through a lot of different biz dev initiatives, but we also have some pretty cool things going on here in the ground right here in Vancouver, including an innovation hub at 312 Main Street, Green Enterprise Zone on the Fall Street Flats, and also on the whiteboard we're kicking off plans in 2015 for a digital district where we're looking at opening up city-owned digital infrastructure for use by the community here. We also have just launched a green and digital demonstration program allowing startups and entrepreneurs to leverage city-owned assets, city-owned infrastructure for the purposes of going through your proof of concept stage or pilot testing or demonstrating what your clean tech or digital solution might be. So think smart city, think clean city. So come talk to us about any number of those programs. And many of you may have heard, exciting announcement just last Friday morning, announced, of course, was the $34.1 million, I think, from the Canadian Acceleration and Incubation Program. So that's been awarded to 4 different institutions here in Vancouver, and that's more than 1/3 of all funding made available for an area of the country that only represents 17%. So just a huge win for Vancouver, and super exciting. Over the next 5 years, we're going to start to see a lot of capital flow, and that's already on top of the most venture capital raised in all of Canada in 2013, and my understanding is what we might also in 2014 have raised the most venture capital for the Vancouver tech community here. So lots of exciting things going on. Another exciting announcement, we've just signed a strategic partnership with university accelerators in both the city of Guangzhou and the city of Hangzhou, where Alibaba is headquartered. And we're pretty excited about the possibilities of opening up markets for our technology startup community in both of those cities. As you know, Hangzhou is pretty close to Shanghai, and with companies like Alibaba headquartered there, we're sort of forecasting some pretty exciting relationships overseas, and how can we open up markets for companies like yours. And then finally, you may not have heard, but just today, Global Entrepreneurship Week identified Vancouver as the most entrepreneurial city in all of Canada. So again, congratulations to the tech community. So many exciting things happening here. So again, I think both myself and Sean Elby will be here for the evening. So if you have any questions about how we can support your business, please come and see us afterwards. So on with the lightning pitches. We have up first Chris Chong from SST Wireless.
Hi, everyone. My company, SST Wireless, we were basically an engineering, development, and producer of wireless industrial sensors. So basically, we do 3 things: keep people safe, reduce operational downtime, and try to reduce the environmental impact. And if you think of M2M or Internet of Things, you can think of us as the guys who play in the dirt, because that's what we kind of do. Our first product was a joint venture with Cal Tire, another local company. Extreme tire pressuring for mining trucks in all over the place. We have about 15 mines around the world that we're currently working with, and we just introduced a new product that we think is going to be a game changer as far as the mining industry is concerned. So based on the success of this, we produced a transit and fleet version, and we did a 2-year pilot test with Edmonton Transit to prove our stuff. And based on that, the biggest manufacturer of buses in North America has selected us as their OEM partner, and now we're engaging with transit agencies directly. More close to home, there's been a lot of issues with fires and explosions at pellet plants and sawmills. So we have a technology that's helping to actually avoid that. And we think it's a technology that's in high demand. I just got another purchase order in my pocket here for another $50,000 system. And we're now working with 3 of the biggest companies in this space that are going to help us commercialize this worldwide. So as a company, what do we do? Well, we're about 8 years old, but you think of us as an 18-month turnaround. Because that's what we're really doing. And we're revenue positive. We are focusing on production. We're working with our global partners to get ourselves to all the markets we can. And we actually have new patents that we're waiting just to start commercializing. So I know it's close to the season, so I hope Santa is here. These are the 3 things I'm looking for. Looking for money to grow. I'm looking for scary, smart people that I can hire to help me. And I need new office facilities to put all these people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris Chong. Okay, next we have Sarah. Sarah from Laura says here, Sao? Is it? Or am I skipping one here?
I don't know.
iHeart. Sorry about that. Okay. Sarah Goodman of iHeart. Away we
Thanks.
go.
Hi, guys. So I'm from iHeart. We're a biotech startup called, and the parent company is Vital Signs. And you guys all know your chronological age, but what's your physiological age? The wearable market has been flooded with hardware and software that tracks activity and sleep and diet, but iHeart is much different. We measure one parameter that's been proven scientifically to be a marker of cardiovascular disease and premature death from all causes, but it's totally reversible. The iHeart user has a device and an iOS application. The test takes 30 seconds and provides immediate results, their physiological age. Over time, they can test daily, bi-weekly, weekly to see how their positive lifestyle choices are affecting their physiological age. The iHeart user's data is stored on our website on their own personal iHeartAlive.com website, where they also have resources, diet, fitness, lifestyle, and the iHeart community support and discussion boards. We just launched our Indiegogo campaign 3 weeks ago. We've already reached over 62% of our funding goal with over a month left. We are located outside and we have testing for everyone, and we'd love to talk to you guys about our awesome product, great team, and possible future endeavors.
That's great. The light's still green. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Laura Moe from Zao.
It's
Tzoa.
Tzoa. Yeah, I know. Kind of. This should do its own thing every 20 seconds too. Hi, my name is Laura. I'm here to talk to you about a project I've been working on called Tzoa, and it is the world's first Enviro tracker. So it serves to improve your healthy habits and teaches you about your surroundings. So air quality. Air is actually the essence of life, so why don't we understand it more? It's more important than fresh foods or clean water, yet we really don't appreciate its impact on our health. This is not changing. With modern cities like Vancouver, we are living in a city with patchworks of clean and dirty air quality. So we should really start to learn where those patchworks are and engage with our environment. And what we do is we monitor air pollution, and we give you suggestions on the cleanest cycling routes, if pollen levels increase, and even can let you know when you're in situations with low air quality, give you indications on other places that you can go. But we don't only do air quality, we also do UV and UV and light. So UV, our competitors are the recent Netatmo June and the Sunsprite from a local company, but we also have the added benefit of the light to give you optimal levels of during the day to know your productivity levels, and also to help you fall asleep at night to know what levels of light you need. So we're live on Kickstarter right now, and we're looking for pre-orders. Please check out our page and help make our campaign a success. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Laura, from Tzoa. Okay, Louis Victor Jadavji from...
Okay, there we go. Wiivv. All right.
Wiivv.
So, hi, I'm LV. So we looked at wearables, and we noticed that, there's 14 billion feet in the world, and the average North American wears 19 pairs of shoes, bringing the possible data permutations in the hundreds of billions. And we see this as an opportunity because from the feet you can garner important information like weight distribution, gait mechanics, and pressure changes. So we built a custom wearable for the foot. Essentially, the reason why we want a custom-made product is because if you look at wearables today, you see there's a lot of restriction in terms of where they can fit on the body. That's because my knee is very different from your knee, my foot's very different from your foot. And on top of that, there's an element that we need high data fidelity, and by having custom integrated sensors, we're able to place these more accurately to get better data. So we're bringing together the worlds of wearables and 3D printing to get custom at scale. So essentially, with your iPhone, you just take a couple second scan, you get a 3D printed product that's generated through our proprietary customization engine. Here's our team. We're qualified. We have engineers from Hewlett-Packard who work on 3D printing, Google on 3D printing and 3D systems as well. And we're currently raising our round of $500K. We're half subscribed. Our lead investors are Alan Meckler, who owns the largest 3D printing mutual fund, and Vimas Joshi, the former executive vice president at Hewlett-Packard Printing and Personal Systems. And yeah, please reach out to me if you're interested. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis Victor. Okay, Craig Slagel from RunGo.
Let's see. Okay. Hi, yes, I'm Craig Slagel from RunGo, and we actually make a voice navigation running app. And it's a very big market. The fitness industry is a 75 billion industry, and runners actually have one common problem. They often get lost, or they don't know where to run, or they don't know where they are while they're running. So we've made an app that solves some of those problems. We help you find great routes, follow them with a really smart GPS navigation system. We let you create routes if there's no route in your area. And then we also do a tracking and sharing of all the other apps do. We can actually share your route you've just finished and then get voice navigation from it. So we have a really smart technology. Our route creation system allows you to create any kind of route within minutes. You can also create a simple route from the app within seconds. You download the route from our server, and then it's downloaded on your phone, so no data required. And then you can get the really good smart navigation system, like having someone right next to you tell you where to go and be fun. And then if you don't want that, you can just run with the app, and again, you can get your route back into the app and then voice navigate next time. Traction-wise, we soft launched a few months ago. We've had over 1,000 downloads with no marketing, and we've got some great partners, including like running clubs, running stores, and local running groups. Next, we're actually going to activate subscriptions so we can start making some money. We are integrating wearables. We have our booth up there, and we're playing around with Recon and Pebble. We've got a public route creation system, and we want to expand to other outdoor sports eventually. Thank you very much. We're looking for some great advisors in the fitness industry, 150,000 seed funding, and please download RunGo, and thank you to our team. Thank you.
That's great, Craig. Thank you very much. Dallas Luther from Maker Labs.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dallas Luther. I'm one of the co-founders at Maker Labs. Some of you may have heard about it. We're a space in Vancouver that seeks to be kind of the home of hardware development and rapid prototyping. So it's our mission to provide these facilities and space to teams, to individuals, to entrepreneurs, to designers. We're essentially looking to create a space that people can come and realize their ideas. In this space, we have laser cutters, CNC machines, 3D printers, and we're making these available on a flat basis to people. We also provide a full wood shop, and we just opened electronics and wood and soft good facilities in the space. We work as a monthly membership, so something like a gym. You come in, you pay that monthly membership and get access to all these tools. We also do a lot of training. We're doing about 5 to 10 workshops a week on this technology. So if you want to come in and see what the technology is capable about, we're open to the public as well. It's essentially our mission to make it easier for people to prototype new products, start a business, or learn a new skill. In the 6 months that we've been in operation, we've developed a very active community of creative people in the city. In terms of what we're seeking, right now we currently have about 12,000 square feet at 196 Kingsway. We invite you all down to have a visit and take a tour. We're open 7 days a week from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we're looking to scale up operations. We're looking for 15 to 30,000 square feet, somewhere around the downtown core. If you'd like to get in touch, you can reach me at that email address. Thank you.
Thanks, Dallas, and a round of applause for all of our pitches tonight. Thank you very much.
So for the lightning pitchers, if you can just step to the side, we're going to do a hot swap. There'll be some seats opening up at the front here, except this one. That's mine. Don't take that one. But if I can ask the panelists just to step up and take this seat, and then we can provide some front row seats for our lightning pitchers. Just while you're doing that, just like to make one more shout out to an organization which a lot of you may have heard of but didn't realize that they're here in Vancouver. It's the New York Institute of Technology. They have opened up a new campus here, and they are the newest VEF sponsor. So a big round of applause and welcome New York Institute of Technology. I made a mistake a little earlier. I told everybody to turn off your device. For those of you that have a smart device, mine's not, we have a Twitter feed. And if you go on to Twitter, log in. If you can't, you can also connect to the Colony Network's industrial Wi-Fi, which has been given to us. And it's pretty straightforward. Log on to Colony Wi-Fi. Keep accepting yes, yes, yes. You have given away your first 100,000 shares of your startup to Colony. And then our Twitter feed today is hashtag VEF Wearables. If you put a Q in there so we know that it's a question, you can have your questions tabulated and tossed in at the end of it, and hopefully they'll be interesting. So So far, we've had a lot of buzz, but from now on, if you want to do just a shout out, do that, but also throw a Q in there if you'd like to ask a question. I am going to hand this off to Pooya. Please.
Hey guys, I'm Pooya. I'm the founder of Linquet. We are an Internet of Things company focused on linking your real world to you and to the people and the places in your life. So, and we already have customers from 34 countries. And just a few hours ago, we launched our new product. So go check it out on linquet.com, linquet.com. So without further ado, I would like to ask our very, very cool panel here to introduce themselves one at a time. Why don't we start with Dan?
Thanks for having me here. I'm Dan Eisenhardt. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Recon Instruments.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. And you saw our next product here, which is launching in Q1 next year, the smart glasses here from RunGo. So we've been around since 2008, and we're kind of the smart glass for sports.
I have a microphone. I came early.
It's discrimination.
Sean Kerklaan with Fatigue Science. I've been working in the sleep industry and understanding how wearable technology can help sleep and manage fatigue. With Fatigue Science, we are a B2B play, Vancouver-based, rapidly growing company, and excited to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much everyone for having me here today. My name is Gonzalo Tudela, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Vandrico Solutions Inc. And what we are is we are a industrial application software platform for wearable devices. So we look at the enterprise space and we see how can we leverage wearables, and the benefit is coming here and connect and integrate existing systems through our platform.
My name is Nadeem Kassam. Founded a company in 2004, a wearable company in Vancouver. Moved it to Silicon Valley. It's called Basin Science. I moved to Silicon Valley in 2010. Spent the last few years in Silicon Valley building it. Sold it recently to Intel, and working on my next wearable product. Not so much hardware, a little more software. Learned my lesson.
And I'm Mark Gorelick, and I'm the Director of Product Science and Innovation for Neo Global. So we've been a company in Vancouver around since 1999, and we build continuous heart rate monitors for the wrist. So we are unfortunately in the hardware and software space, which is exceedingly difficult. So thank you very much for having me.
Please join me in welcoming the panel. So as you can see, very amazing, very over-accomplished panel. So before we get to questions, I would like to very quickly give you guys an overview of what the industry wearables look like. So what is wearables? So as you know, we're all familiar with Internet of Things, which is basically connecting everyday objects to you and to the cloud. So a big portion, if not the biggest segment of that, is wearables, which is a $25 billion industry, and this is just like devices and products that are directly wearables. A very, very huge industry, as you can see, $25 billion, more than $140 million units is going to be shipped in the next 3-4 years. And so is it hot? Apparently. Because VCs have invested more than $1.4 billion since 2009, and just in North America alone, deals have increased by 135% in the past 2 years. And here's a very quick breakdown of it. And we've also had some notable exits in the wearable industry. The most important one, obviously, is GoPro, which is around a $10 billion company now. One of them is Basis, which is actually, this number is not correct, is closer to $150 million. We have Nadeem here tonight with us. So, and this is just day zero of what IoT and wearables is going to be like. And also we have here different areas of market focus. And as you can see, a lot of competition in lifestyle section, then in fitness, and as you can see, market segments like pets and dogs and cats are very, very neglected, which means room for innovation and disruption. So yes, let's get into the questions. The first question that I have for the panel, and feel free to start. Why did you guys choose wearables and IoT when there are many easier categories in technology? So let's start with the guy who started off hardware, Nadeem.
Why did I start? Ignorance. I had no freaking clue what I was doing. I'd spent a long time in the entertainment industry, building companies and burning myself out. And so when I decided to get healthy or incorporate wellness into my life, I got fascinated with the heart. I got fascinated with the information that comes from the heart. A lot of you know potentially about that, but beats per minute is an interesting number. It's the rhythm of your heart, but it's also present inside of the cadence of our running. It's also present in the beats of our music, and so I was so fascinated with that, and I got so passionate about what we could do with that data. What if we could collect this data off our body 24/7? This is 2004. When Dance Dance Revolution was just about to start. There was no Nintendo Wii, there was no wearables. And so primarily just because I got fascinated with the space. And honestly, I have no medical background, I have no engineering background, and that's probably why I did it. So yeah, I think ignorance got me into wearables.
Mark?
Yeah, I came from an actual relatively different background than most. I actually was a university professor in kinesiology, so I was actually a physiologist for many years, and saw the impact of wearable technology, and was at that time in San Francisco and had opportunities to sort of branch out and understand more about wearables, and really seeing how the growth was astronomical. And I got caught up in the fast pace of wearable side and found my research not as exciting. So also being Canadian, wanted to move back to Canada, and there was a fantastic opportunity to be here and to jump into the deep end. And yeah, it's an incredible ride at the moment.
So far, ignorance and being a Canuck. Gonzalo?
I'd say first off, it wasn't my decision. It was really our team. When we founded Vandrico, they're on the people first. And so for us to get together and kind of analyze the market, I use my background, my strength. And so I've always been a trend follower in a sense, and I try to get there as ahead of the curve. My first kind of background was in extreme sports and action photography before Red Bull kind of got into that space, before GoPro came around. In 2008, in the financial crisis, I jumped into gold and mining. I thought that was really going to take off. And then I kind of left and exited in 2011, or 2011. Took 2012 travel a bit, but came back in 2013. And when one of my co-founders, Kenny, came to me with just a stellar team, it was really about what's next. And when you look at how everything has evolved in terms of how we communicate with each other, in terms of how we're connected and how the internet is propelling everything, the next logical step after the smartphone to us was wearables. And when we put our data analytics mind to it and started slicing, I think that slide that we just showed you was kind of a part of our database. What we see is this is true. It's really going to happen. And so we all firmly believe that the next logical step is wearables after the smartphone. So we just wanted to be a part of it and help pioneer it and do our piece. And that's what we did as a team.
Thanks. Chong?
I founded a company that made a product that treats snoring and sleep apnea. And I realized that understanding the compliance of your device, whether or not your users are actually wearing it on a consistent basis, and being able to leverage that data set to go back to the doctors who are prescribing the device with some type of valid information. So the patients are wearing it on a nightly basis. It has an impact on their life. The only way I saw getting real data was by incorporating a wearable piece. Fatigue Science was founded in 2007 in part by Pat Byrne, whose nephew had worked an overtime shift in a logging camp and got in his car after working a very long shift, fell asleep at the wheel, and he unfortunately died. Pat went out to say, what is there in health and safety, in regulation around work hours that can protect the safety of the individual? And so Pat came at it from a similar perspective and saying, how can we leverage wearable technology to provide rich data back to management, back to the decision makers, so that from an aggregate perspective, they can create much safer work schedules. And we can make a safer, smarter, healthier, more productive environment.
That's really cool, but don't show it to startup people. If it tells their bosses that, okay, your team is working so hard, yeah, nobody would love that at a startup. Yeah.
Pooya, an article was published around the hours CEOs work for startup companies, and I myself work some really long hours. But when you look at your ability to make smart, rational decisions after being awake for an extended period of time, you really have to think hard about whether or not you're making the right decision. And you have to prioritize getting good sleep. You'll make better decisions, you'll be safer, you'll be more productive when you prioritize healthy nutrition, exercise, and getting good sleep.
That sounds good. Actually, we negotiated. I'm going to be their spokesperson. I'm going to be there before, everything that not to do. So, Dan.
Yeah, I think for me it all started somewhere in the mid '80s in a pool somewhere in North Jutland in Denmark, where I'm from, and it's really frustration with your inaccessible interfaces or data. Like I was always in the pool as a competitive swimmer, guessing, how fast I was going, what my heart rate was, and I could never get that information until it was too late, until I was at the end of the pool and I had to really catch my breath, and my goggles were all queued up, and I couldn't see the clock. So I really felt that it was suboptimal training environment, and so luckily later on in my life I was doing an MBA at UBC and met some great people, and there, we later formed into Recon, with the focus to solve that problem. And the problem is having access to information you need during activity, and we're focused on sports. So we thought it was going to be easier than it was, because when you start to look at the engineering trade-offs and trying to make that happen, juxtaposed against the fashion element when you put something on your face. We all have seen this with glass. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Suddenly you open up a whole new can of worms. But I'd say frustration is really what's been driving the genesis of the idea there.
That's always a good drive. So I want all of you to answer this question as well. Like, what's been your biggest challenge as a wearable company, and how are you overcoming it? And let's start with Dan, who's competing with a little company called Google.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, we're kind of in the same boat as Google. We're both fighting for eyeballs. We're doing it for two different reasons. Google's doing it for advertising, and we're doing it, we believe, to solve a real problem for customers with a product. For us, I mean, the biggest challenge, I think I got this question, early on back in 2008 or 9. It was, so what's your killer app? And I was always saying, well, forget about the killer app. We first have to invent the technology. Because, we pioneered this category, and there was really nobody that had made a consumer heads-up display before. I think the iPhone, when we met in 2006, was barely even had hit the shelves. So there was a lot of things that had to happen on the technology side. And as a hardware company, I think a lot of people here tonight appreciate that. There's really a lot of challenges with a hardware company, especially getting enough cash to actually live another day, because you're burning it so quickly. So you can have the best roadmap and the best people, but you need to constantly sell the dream, and it's not something that's going to happen next year or the year after. You're looking at maybe 5-6 years out before you actually have something. So you have to survive for a very long time, keep your head above water, and keep everybody in the company and in your investor circles and everybody else, your wife, everybody else enthusiastic about what you're doing. So that's a pretty long journey. The rewards are pretty big too, because you can own something where you can tie in your customers, you can build an ecosystem around it, and then you can start looking at apps and data and how to monetize it. And it's really where we're at now after 7 years after incorporation is that we're finally moving from the snow business niche where we've been supplying as an OEM sort of supplier to Oakley and other eyewear companies to now pivoting with their own consumer brand in smart glasses, which is really more a software play. Now you have a form factor that you can use almost anywhere, except for non-sports. We don't promote you sitting in right here today with a smart glass on. That's not where we're not there yet. So the biggest challenge I think was actually inventing the device and raising enough capital to actually see another day.
Oh. Well, there's probably 15 things every one of us will check. Capital is probably at the top of that list. To be honest, I think one of the hardest pieces is focus. In that we're moving in such a rapid stage of product development, hardware development, competitors coming into this space. A couple of good competitors up here talking about building heart rates and understanding your physiological age. We get questions like that from our customers on a regular basis. So why do you only have one accelerometer? Why don't you also check heart rate? And what about room temperature? And what about noise? And focus has been one of the biggest challenges for us in having confidence in what we do, focusing on the niche vertical we know generates revenue, and staying comfortable with that, sharing that to our shareholders, where we're going, why we're going after that. It is very easy to look at how many distractible devices are out there. Apple iWatch is a great example. Every shareholder says, oh my God, what are you going to do? Apple iWatch is going to come out and crush you. Well, it's not. It's a very different device. It has a very different application. It's very focused on that consumer. It has a 18-hour battery life before it's got to get recharged. We are very focused on the industrial setting where we can go into a mine or we can go onto a professional sports player's wrist and we can track data for 30 days without having to take that device off. And being comfortable in that's what we've built, that's what we have, and that's where we're going to stay focused is, I think, one of the key points of how we're going to continue to succeed as a business.
That's a very, very good point, because I was reading an article like a while back on how the number one killer of startups is not lack of funding, is not like lack of distribution, is lack of focus. Doing too many things at the same time, or even people inside the company doing multiple things simultaneously. So I totally agree with you. We actually at Linquet at our office we have a huge picture of a squirrel which is scratched out, and we say focus. So yeah, no squirrels. So Gonzalo, challenge.
Oh man, well if I can echo focus, I would, but I feel like I have to come up with something else. I would say that when you're trying, I would say probably communication to an audience that something is coming that's going to completely change the way they do business. That sort of, it's not necessarily selling a dream, and it's not necessarily, solving a specific problem at that point. It's telling you like, this is going to solve your problem, and you're going to need to know about it, and you're going to have to build a strategy. And the best way to do so is to integrate your systems. And to communicate that has been an extreme challenge to us. And it's also the communication of, what is the principal benefit of a wearable? The actual principal benefit of a wearable is contextual, situational awareness. It's as simple as that. So when the right person, the right time, the right moment gets the right information. It's exactly what Dan was just talking about. He's swimming, he needs that information. I don't have a watch, I'm doing my activity, I gotta see it. Take everything away, whether it's an Apple iWatch or a Google Glass or Recon instruments. It's still about contextual, situational awareness. So how do you communicate that to an enterprise? How do you communicate that to how that's going to completely change their business? That's been our number one challenge. And I think that, I can give one example of what I mean by it's very different than a smartphone. Right now, my phone, I'm not kidding you not, my phone was just ringing. Someone's calling me, right? But it's buzzed, and I bet you all of the panelists have had their phone buzz, and probably a majority of the audience has had a text, an email, a Facebook app, maybe some use Tinder. Regardless, it went off in your pocket, trying to give you an alert. But none of you know what that alert was. You don't know how important that was. You don't know how relevant it was to this moment. But I can tell you right now, if you look at what UC Berkeley is doing, the seismology lab there, they're working on a system to give Vancouver a 2-minute warning detection before our next earthquake. So when I ask everyone here, why didn't you check your phone when it buzzed? What if it was trying to tell you you have 2 minutes to evacuate this building? What would happen if it all went off on our watches instead?
Or your Recon glasses.
Or your Recon glasses. But again, what I'm trying to say is it's been, for us, it's been an immense challenge to communicate this principal benefit and how that massive power relates to enterprise, how that relates to a mine, how that relates to an energy power plant, how that relates to everything industrialized, beyond industrialized, even in the boardroom. So that's been our big challenge.
That sounds like a big challenge. I remember Elon Musk was saying that when we started PayPal, we first had to explain what the internet was. Then say, oh, by the way, you can use it to send money. So it's probably a similar situation with you guys. Yeah. Nadeem, I know you have a very long list of challenges.
But I'll make them short.
Yeah.
It's hard not to reiterate a lot of what's been said. I founded it in 2004. I didn't move to Silicon Valley till 2010. So 6 years of raising funding with no revenue was all kinds of fun. We've talked about a little bit of focus, continuous applications for our technology. When I founded Basis, we're picking up heart rate continuously. We're picking up temperature. We're picking up a galvanic skin response and all kinds, 5 different types of data points. What do you do with this data? There's so many applications. And it turned out that, we built a pretty awesome hardware business and started making some money on it. But really what contributed to the sale of the company was figuring out the software side. How do you actually get retention? How do you actually get people to log in every day and care about what their data looks like? So deriving insight from all this data is quite a challenge. And then, as CEO of the company, when you start a hardware business, it's much different than a software business. When you build a software business, you've got one team. When you've got a hardware business, you've got 3 teams. You've got a hardware, you've got a software, and in the middle, you've got a firmware. And all of those teams need to sync somehow. They don't, but they need to. And so that is a hell of a challenge, running 3 teams at the same time, trying to make them sync, and trying to figure that out without having a clue how to do it. So hardware is interesting, and it's a reiteration. So I'd love to hear what you come up with.
It's actually very, very similar. So I would kind of spin on ahead. Our issue and most struggle is actually the growth and the resourcing of that. So because we are a hardware company, now everyone wants the killer app associated. If you don't have an app, why not? So with the hardware team, the software team, the firmware team, the SDK team, communication around that team, it becomes complicated. When you're small, you have to contract a lot of those bits out. So then you have people who are not, around the water cooler talk, which a lot of our decisions in-house get made is just in passing. What about this? Or I've noticed this today, that are not done in a full email communication as they should be. So that's been kind of a challenge for us, and we've recognized that in part, but not to its fullest, where we've brought in our customer service now to be in-house, because it's much easier for them to run across the room and ask us a question. They're getting these minor blips and changes in functionality that happen on the fly of a device or within an app that really kind of get lost in the fold of all the other things. So our intent is really to try to bring in more of a community within our own company to deal with these fast-moving, nimble changes that we're having to do because of the encroaching competition and the needs of our consumers and the ideas that they bring to us that we want to support and maintain our quality, which is a massive thing.
And you guys have a team in Asia as well, and you have a team here.
Yeah, we have
time zones are way
time zone communication. It's certainly getting easier with virtual collaboration, but to this date, I don't think anything supersedes the ability to sit down with someone and actually, beyond the meeting. Like that's where a lot of things I can sit down and have a focused meeting on one point, but beyond that meeting, I find that's where that communication can get lost really easily, and it's not documented somewhere.
Wait for Recon. They'll take care of it in 2 years.
Hey, please excuse me for 3 minutes.
Okay. So I want to
turn off your mic.
See, he got the notice about the earthquake.
Forget everyone else. Let's just get out of here.
So you're talking about actually teams and stuff. Vancouver, as we all know, is one of the best places to live on Earth. To me, is the best. And we have world-class universities, and we have amazing government who supports innovation a lot. We don't have a lot of VCs, but everything else we do have. Why is it so hard to find talent in Vancouver? And I don't want you guys to be polite about it. So let's talk about it and let's see why. Like the biggest problem that we have, like a lot of people on this panel, like including Recon, have been funded. You guys have raised $28 million so far,
about
right?
27.
From investors from the Valley. So funding is not that big of a problem, but we discussed this. Why is it like so hard to find good talent and like world-class talent that are like startup material who can do that thing that you want and also manage these teams and intercommunication with those teams? Because of what you guys are doing, you're competing with Google, so unless you have a Google level team, you cannot survive and win that race. So how are you guys addressing that?
Yeah, I think first off, we're not competing with Google. We'd never do that. But we're in different markets. But
what about the search engine you told me?
Yeah, well, I don't think we're going to build that into Jet, at least not next year. But I think up to a certain stage, I think the talent recruitment wasn't our biggest problem. We had really good relationships with the universities, UBC and SFU and BCIT and so forth. So I think we've been very fortunate there. But when you get to a certain stage in your life cycle, you reach commercialization, and you need that layer of lieutenants that are super experienced, have been there, done it all, have worked on an international scale, cutting edge technology, and also the VP layer there. Then it gets very difficult, and then you have to bring in people. And when you bring in people from outside, they come in and they go, wow, it's expensive to live here. And then they go, wow, that salary is really low. What's going on? Well, no, you got these options. So you have to really do a good job at selling the options. So I think everybody here understands that it's really difficult to make those two things work. But you're right. I mean, there's increasing competition now. You've got Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft, and basically everybody making subsidiaries up here. And then there's going to be a bigger fight for talent. I think it's going to make the pie grow eventually, and I think it will actually benefit the community here that we've got these great companies coming up here with capital, and we're going to get more experience. But it's going to take some time, and hopefully, the PNP program has been great for us, and has been, I think they just changed it recently, unfortunately, but it's been really good for us. And we had at one point, I think, 20 different nationalities in a team of 60. So everybody was speaking broken English, including myself. And so that was, I think we're still around 15, 16 different nationalities now. So a lot of people have moved here and you get access to them, but other people we've simply just recruited from abroad. So I think as you're looking outside Canada, I think is the way to go. And it's not just Silicon Valley. There's plenty of bright people around the world. So it's just a matter of getting hold of them.
Funny you mentioned that, because I know Nadeem has a big team in Italy So would you speak to that and why couldn't you find that talent in Vancouver, and why didn't you go to Silicon Valley if you went to Europe?
So Silicon Valley is it's quite expensive and much more than just money. Retention out there is very difficult to retain star people. You're competing against Google and Apple and all the big boys. And so I spent years down there recruiting and retaining and spending and throwing pizza parties, which takes a lot of effort. And so I did start looking. I've been at this for over 10 years now, and I'm very specific at the kind of talent that I'm looking for, and specifically around biomedical engineering and what they actually understand within that. I found over the years 2 pockets in the world that kind of understand what I'm trying to do in my next startup. I found a pocket in Russia, in just outside the Soviet, I shouldn't describe where, but it's one of the challenges is traveling to all these damn places. But the other pocket I found was actually in Italy, at the University of Pisa, and another fantastic group of biomedical engineers that really understand the heart and the signal, the heart rate variability signal that comes from the heart, but also understanding this pocket that I found out there was a group of PhDs in music. And they understood classical music, and they understood, how to create and be creative. And so, through my travels and whatnot, I ended up in Europe, and I love Italy. And Italy is a fantastic place to travel, much more so than the former place I mentioned. And so I go there often, and I found incredible, talented engineers who don't require pizza parties, who get paid generously, but according to the standard in Italy, and they're extremely passionate. But I've really, created a process of finding talent around the world, and not just looking in Vancouver or in the States. But there's really aggressive, passionate people for this industry in Europe and around the world. So spread your wings, get out there, travel. It's a contact sport.
Sean, Gonzalo, do you guys have any comments on that?
No, first go.
You can be pro as well. You can say, no, Vancouver has the best talent. Forget about Silicon Valley. Forget about Italy. Let's all go to Russia.
Well, the first thing I'd actually throw back at you, and I think the one aspect is, what do you mean by talent? Do you mean just engineers, or do you mean business development, or do you mean user experience? Like there's such a wide variety of people and specialists.
All of them, engineers, designers, VP of biz dev.
So I ask you, where's the best chef? Versus where's the best pizza?
Italy.
But you see what I'm saying, right? So I think that the one thing is the echo is, it is a globalized world now. We're so interconnected, and we have great tools. Like one of the Vancouver startups, Slack, the amazing tool to use, right? And if you have, you've been able to travel and find specific people. For me, the single most important aspect of anyone within my team, and I share this with everyone on our team, is values, morals and values. We start there, and we look for people in that aspect, then we'll fit into where we need them. And I personally, we're still very young as a company, so I personally haven't had the challenge of looking for talent like Dan would, or it's just not there for me, so I can't fully relate. But what I am extremely thankful for is for my business partner Kenny and putting together our team. Like, I was just a piece of it. He really had brought everything together. So I think over the next few years, as we grow, then I'll start to see that problem. But I think that in terms of talent as well in Vancouver, we're going to see a shift where the mining industry, which dominates, is a very large player in Vancouver, as the commodity prices go down and as those maybe promoters or junior resource miners or some companies start to cut back, they start to realize that, hey, tech's a booming technology place. Perhaps we should allocate or move careers into that area. Can I use my BD, my ability to raise capital, ability to take things public, experience in large scale logistics and global dynamics and law. There's so much more than just engineers in a business. And I think that there will be a bit of a shift over the next 5 years if the commodity prices continue to stay in a dormant area. So
that's a good point. Mark, you guys have been around for like 15 years.
1999. Yeah.
Wow. And but during all that 15 years, you've been laser focused on sports. So we know the value of focus, but because it would help you to grow and scale sustainably in the early years. But why have you guys kept your focus on sports?
Yeah, we've had this conversation. Sean brought up the point is since '99 we certainly have been constantly pulled in the health area. Having this technology, which didn't start in '99. Neo, started with the first on-demand heart rate type of solution, and then did a pivot about 2 years ago to this continuous heart rate technology. The Neo has been interested in solving problems and overcoming technical limitations and really trying to be novel in the industry. I would say that there's a number of reasons why we've sort of stayed in sports and performance. One is we saw an area where we wanted to tackle, which was removing the chest strap. That is our key. If we were to have a mantra, that's what we do. Our goal is to remove the chest strap. So that ends up being to date a 12 million chest straps around year to year. So it's a decent sized business to focus only on heart rate. The other more interesting side is that 50% of the wearable technology market globally is driven by sports and fitness. So at the moment, we're really paving the way for adoption of wearables, and potentially helping with the use cases that are, that we never even thought of. Very easy for someone to understand. Actually, most people don't understand the value of a step, but it's conceptually an idea that if I put this on my hip that I get, or on my wrist, I understand that I have to walk 10,000 steps. These other types of use cases, like alerts and that, are certainly have a lot of value, but it's newer. Pedometers have been around for many years. They used to give them out in cornflake boxes for free as a toy. So the third and probably the most important is that because of this focus, we've really tried to specialize in an area that we are sort of become the gold standard. So we've kind of hooked into an area where we're the gold standard for heart rate, and it's not that this is ever ending. There's many groups behind us coming that way. Don't laugh at me.
I shall laugh at you.
But we were the first, and we were the most accurate for performance speeds. So we're not just health and fitness performance. So that has been our hook, and that's allowed us to maintain, as a smaller company, a bigger voice in this ever encroaching area. So with that kind of focus, it's been, I think we would have been washed out if we really try to enter only into that fitness market. Doesn't mean we won't go there. We typically are having our new products are coming out, and they'll dabble in some of those activity tracker side of things. But this sort of idea of this added value and contextual data we'll build in to really support our key feature, which is heart rate. And that's really provided us, I think, at least some sustainability for the short term, but you can't rely on that forever, that's for sure, because people see a good idea and they try to replicate.
Okay. Speaking of replicating and copying, Sean, every day.
Yes, Sean.
Because he's been dealing with this problem a lot, and because every day you see from China a new fatigue-related, sleep-related, sleep tracking product. So only a very different few companies will survive in the long term. So in your view, what does the future of sleep and sleep tracking and sleep enhancement, if you will, look like?
a good question. I'll touch on the sports piece as well and work that into my equations. We struggled as a company from 2007 to try and make money. We struggled with a huge birth of different opportunities to go after, and we landed a contract with the Vancouver Canucks in understanding how does sleep help their overall performance, their ability to react to split-second decisions. And in working with a professional sports team, it's a sexy story. Media want to cover you. You get on the front page of newspapers. You get TV interviews. People want to ask you questions. They hear about you. They see what your story is. Investors get excited. It builds a certain amount of confidence that landing a deal with a mine or a transportation company doesn't breed that kind of environment. Now, we work with a whole bunch of different sports teams. We communicate that to our shareholders and our investors why we're going after that. Pro sports get us on the front page of media. It builds out a really wicked system. You get immediate feedback. You get active people who really want to learn and help you make it better because they realize the more they give you in terms of feedback, the better we can make it, the better chance they'll have of winning a Super Bowl. We take that data to build out our platform. Where are they going with this is I think there's a glut of different sensors, and one of our biggest challenges is compliance. How do we get Russell Wilson with the Seattle Seahawks to wear his Ready Band nonstop throughout the whole season? Because the moment you take off your sensor and it's sitting in your locker or it's sitting on your bedside table recharging, we have no idea what you as an individual is doing. And where I believe technology is going is the ubiquity or what's the word I'm missing? You can be device agnostic, whether you wear an iWatch, a Mio, a Basis, doesn't matter. We're going to take any type of sensor you wear, and the winner is going to be the person who can aggregate that data, contextualize that data against whatever device you want, and give you information that you care about, that's real time to you.
Gonzalo, so how do you feel like enterprise customers are preparing themselves for this contextual world of technology that is coming their way, and most of them, as you mentioned, are not noticing it or are not ready for it?
Well, I wouldn't say so much that most of them aren't ready for it. There's definitely a lot of companies who realize that this is something that they need to look at. I think that right now they just don't understand it. It's so new. It's like, what is it? And so, I hope I can help a little bit here, but what we did is we looked at, so we have a database of wearable technologies. Obviously it shows, how many devices are in the market, what's kind of happening with it. And what we did is we took all of that data and we made about 9.6 million comparisons. Took these pieces and said, how do these devices relate to each other, and how is these subsectors forming? I'm going to get here somewhere with this, but essentially you can see those three major categories, which were, activity monitors, smartwatches, and head-mounted displays. Those are kind of the three main. There's a lot of detail that can be derived from that. But where that's relevant is you start to see there's only two different paths in wearables. One is augmenting the senses and giving information. The secondary aspect is taking information from a user. And so with an enterprise outlook, you're saying, do I take information and learn about my workforce, the quantified workforce, or do I give them information? And when you look at the challenges in an enterprise, one of the things you need to be cognitively aware of is that there's unions, and the data is an issue of privacy. So to get on board with wearing a device and having someone pulling data from that device is a hurdle. And Chong's been actually doing a great job because he can link it to safety. He can link it to reducing the amount of deaths at an organization or amount of injuries. That's where you're going to have the benefits. And I think that when we look at this from Vandrico's perspective, we say let's start by giving them information because that gets over the retention issue. We can say make it integral into their job and integral into their safety by delivering critical information. Then they're always going to be wearing it. Then let's talk about taking information. Then let's let an event happen and say, hey, if we had been pulling this information, we could have prevented this event. So I'm going to echo Sean again and say if the people are going to win is make that ubiquitous synergy between pulling information from a user, delivering that information from a user, and regardless of what device it is.
Thanks for that. I think we established that there's a huge opportunity in this sector, and most people, they start companies because they want to see a change in the world, and also on the secondary objective of it, looking for a financial return and exit, either through acquisition or IPO. So I want to ask Nadeem, why did you sell?
So I started the company quite a few years ago, and it was very obvious that wearables were gaining traction rapidly. Around 2012 or so, 2011, 2012, you started seeing very large companies, the Googles, the Apples, the Samsungs, and whatnot, started talking about this space and their plans in this space. And so when I raised my Series B round, I raised it from some very significant venture capital in Silicon Valley. But I also knew that it was time to bring in a corporate investor, somebody that would be very interested in this space as we move forward. And so after lots of negotiations, Intel actually invested in our Series B round. It was at that point that we started getting a lot of market traction. We started taking some interesting market share. And most importantly, we started generating a lot of retention in our software. Our web apps, our mobile apps were getting a lot of continuous daily logins. And so, as we've mentioned before, these kinds of companies take a lot of money to build and to implement. And so while raising my Series C round, I was fortunate enough to talk to a lot of the big new companies entering the space. So after visiting the R&D labs of multiple companies from the Googles and the Apples and the Samsungs and on and on and on, I was very clear that this space was something that they were hyper focused on. And so as a startup, although I had dreams and ambitions of building $1 billion company, I quickly got education in how much and how aggressive some of these big companies were. And so when these big companies are starting to spend billions in R&D in this space, I kind of see the writing on the wall. Hardware over the next few years is going to be a commodity. There's going to be a lot of big companies in the space. There's going to be a lot of sensors everywhere, in, on, around our bodies. And so when I started looking at the future, I started looking at becoming device agnostic. As Sean talked about, the data that's coming from all of these devices, whether it be wearable, whether it be the Nest in your house, environmental, pollution and whatnot, all of this data needs to come together to give us some insight. And so I started focusing on what's going to come next in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and realized I probably need some capital to get there. And so it was a combination of looking at what's happening currently with the big boys, and looking at what's next and what I want to do next.
Okay. Dan, I know you guys have been approached with some sexy offers, but have turned them down. Why haven't you sold?
I guess the offers weren't good enough, but no, I think we've got Intel as well as an investor, and we've got a number of strategics. We've raised a lot of capital there early on. So I think any CEO or any founder has a lot of pressure at some point to deliver a return to their investors. It's not you might have a dream to solve a big problem, but maybe not everybody has the same passion behind that dream. There's people that have hard-earned money that is put into your enterprise. So you got to respect that there are people out there that want to return. And of course, at some point, you're also maybe after 10 years, you've got all these ideas that you've kind of hit away, and you would like to start working on them at some point, and you would like to hand off your business to somebody that can make it bigger than you can. I mean, there is such a thing as fatigue. No pun intended here. For an entrepreneur, I think we all want to build new things and be part of something that now is the next new thing and not kind of yesterday's new thing. So that's just the mindset of an entrepreneur. In terms of offers and so forth, I think, there's also a difference between, having somebody interested and actually, getting to a place where you can agree on what, a sale. I think for us, we're just at the beginning. What we can do, we have a device, it's still very early. We're seeing the wrist is getting a little bit crowded now, so that's a problem. And of course, the biggest challenge for a wearable is that you have to make people wear it, and you can't wear 10 wristwatches. So there's something, it's going to give there. So I think you're going to see some devices that are just going to disappear, and maybe other means of data collection are going to emerge. For us, we're in a different space. We're sitting on, people's faces, and so it's very private. It's a very precious piece of real estate, where you touch 90% on fashion and vanity and 10% on technology. And it's kind of a dichotomy, because you've got the big fashion companies like Luxottica and Safilo and Marchon and those guys. They know very little about technology. They know a lot about eyewear. And then you've got companies like Recon. I used to know only a lot about technology, and we actually had to go and learn a lot about fashion. And we partnered with Oakley and Smith Optics and Uvex and Scott, all the big companies, for years to try and learn from them in the snow sports business, while letting them take the risk in selling the product. And finally, we said, okay, we want to survive here. We could sell now and get, after all these years, get a moderate return, or we can go out and really take on this market, pivot as a consumer brand with our own eyewear. So we're disrupting eyewear. We also have a camera on there, so we're disrupting the camera space. And then, of course, the bike computing and social as well. You have ability to connect in the moment and share in real time and review stuff. That's going to disrupt that market too. So we thought, well, there's bound to be some more return here. We own the space. So we took a chance, and we're now launching here in Q1, and we're actually going into enterprise and consumer at the same time, because we have a platform now. So I think it's more a matter of where your heart is at. If you feel that there's more sort of dry powder, and you take another run at it. But at some point, of course, you get to a stage where with Nadeem there, you kind of put things together, and there's maturity. You look at the macro environment. You've got some great investors on board, and you look for the exit. And I think that's really the dream, I think, for any entrepreneur, to get that right, hit that point where you can sell it at the right price and everybody's happy.
Awesome. Actually, we are very lucky tonight that we got to actually hear both sides of that story, because it's really, really important to exit at the right moment. To Nadeem's point, there was a company called Fab.com, which was valued at $1.2 billion last year, and they're now in discussion to sell to Google for $15 million. So it's really important to be a bit ahead of the curve, but at the same time, entrepreneurs are not the most rational people. So that's why we start companies, and it's always good, like to be insane and shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you're gonna land amongst the stars. So as the last questions, because we got to get to Q&A from the audience as well, I want you guys to very quickly just give us an idea of why Vancouver is such a great place to start a company, and that's why you guys have all stayed here. Even people from Silicon Valley have come back. So you want to take it?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, how can you not love, Vancouver? It's a fantastic place. I think, for us, being a sports brand, it really is part of our DNA, that we should be here. And we love, our playgrounds up at Whistler. That's where we developed our first products. We're now, have the killer app is, of course, cycling and running now that we're launching on our smart glass form factor. But, in any sport, you can imagine you've got basically a playground outside. So I think that just speaks to the brand and who we are. But apart from that, I actually think there is a lot of talent in town. And I think if you look at all the different institutions, we're working with them all. And it's not just the engineers. If you look at the industrial designers and UI designers at Emily Carr, for example, or other institutions, we're working with them. And there's plenty of talent to go around. I think there's also, of course, when you first establish yourself in a place to actually move somewhere else, it's not as easy or trivial as it sounds. You have your IP, you have your corporate structure, you've got all your people, who's going to move, who's going to stay. So it's really an expansion stage. Maybe what you're doing is you're starting a sales office in Silicon Valley, or maybe there's a secondary R&D lab in Europe that has a certain piece of your product that makes sense to have isolated. So that can happen, but really moving your corporate offices at some point becomes very difficult and highly risky. So I think that's just a practical side of this. It's not just a matter of whether we were just staying here because, we love it so much. We do, but I think it would take a lot for us to actually move.
Chong?
As a young CEO of a small startup, you've got an idea to foster. Vancouver's a pretty cool environment to find an incubator, find a number of people who are willing to put in some seed money into your company and get you started. It's an environment of young, smart people who are energetic, healthy. We put lifestyle first. We've got a lot of healthy people coming into the office, cycling to work. I'm from Montreal. I'm torn. Montreal certainly has its lifestyle and its benefits, but being out on the West Coast, it's an amazing place to live and find some good life.
And winters are better.
Winters are better?
Yeah.
I might disagree with that. I would much rather minus 20 temperatures and put on a nice warm jacket than the cold, damp feelings I have when I'm cycling down the UBC hill and it's raining and freezing cold. But I love the city. I think the team loves the city. And ultimately, though, we are building a business that can be virtual. We can have our team anywhere we want, and technology today enables that. And if you're starting a company, the ability for you to have people anywhere on your platform with video conferencing and teleconferencing is better than it's ever been before. Vancouver is a great place, but if you can't afford it and you can't afford to hire people here, you can go anywhere you want. You can hire talent anywhere you want. The world's your oyster.
Well, I'm really interested to hear Nadeem's point, but on my side, I grew up in Vancouver and I've had the luxury of being able to live in a couple of different cities. And just before moving back here, I was living in Barcelona. I was wondering myself, where do I want to start my business? And one of the things is extremely, when you're starting out and you're young, you got to have your network. You got to have people you can rely on and people you can trust. I'd say that was a big contributor. The second contributor is, I think this is my 18th year snowboarding. I love the mountains. And to go from, downtown or, North Van, 15 minutes of the gondola, you're on the hill. It's awesome. And I love hiking. I love getting out in the outdoors. And I'd say there's very few places that I've been on this earth where I could sit down, watch a view, and just reflect and think and be inspired. And Vancouver it's magical.
Beautiful.
That's why I came back.
What I said?
What he said.
Yeah, because you hated the valley, right?
Yeah, I hated it.
You did, right?
Yeah, Silicon Valley was quite a slog once you get used to the lifestyle in Vancouver for everything Gonzalo said. It's fantastic. It's inspirational. There's some clean air out here. The other thing that's fantastic about Vancouver and BC is the amount of support that our government gives us. Mm. It's significant compared to a lot of places that I've tried to start companies. From early days, BC investor tax credits. To be able to give 30% back to an angel, that's half the pitch, right? You're going to give them money back in cash. It's unbelievable. From shred credits, the ability to go out and innovate and rely on this government supporting you and giving you, up to 42% of your money back to go and be bold and create. It's unique. And on and on. The IRAP program has been fantastic to us. The early days in Vancouver raising angel money was tough, but the government support that we got was unprecedented. And so I think BC, with a combination of the lifestyle that we receive being here, which is just fantastic, government support, which is unbelievable. I think BC is a fantastic place to start your company.
Perfect. And good to have you back.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm 1.5 years in Vancouver, being away for 17 years out of Canada. So I was certainly attracted to come back and being in San Francisco and other countries around the world. I think on a business side, there's a lot of like-minded people here, particularly in sports and performance. So when we're hiring people, they often have a lifestyle advantage and as well as an understanding, at least, of health and wellness. So we have our engineers understand why is heart rate important. We have, our UI designers that are runners that can already intuitively understand what we're trying to get our point across. So I think that kind of gives us an advantage here being in Vancouver beyond just a fantastic place to live, where other places it's hard to compare, to be honest.
Awesome. I just wanted to summarize what we've learned today. So first of all, it's always harder than it seems, and it's always going to take longer and cost more. Sophisticated hardware is necessary, but it's not where the real value is. The real value is in the sophisticated software and algorithms and the cloud aspect of it. And Vancouver is an amazing place. It's hard to raise money, but we have the support of the government, so we know where we need to work on. And please join me in thanking the panel for their amazing. And we're going to go to some questions from the audience. Do we have any questions from Twitter? Okay. Oh, okay. So, I think it's for all the panel. Is the wearable startup lifecycle longer than most? Is it a process of building a market before selling to it? Nadeem, you started before there was an iPhone.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, creating a market nowadays it's a little bit easier, but because of the support in the community for hardware, back when I was starting, is a lot more difficult. Not to say that it's not difficult now. The other thing that's the life cycle is longer than you would expect. You're dependent on multiple different teams delivering and syncing, and those teams are not in sync. And so it's a hell of a management process. But yes, more time, more money, more effort than you could imagine.
Okay, do we have any questions from the audience here? Because we have some microphones.
Yeah, hi, it's Nick McKinnon from eTreat MD. I want to touch on a subject that you haven't touched in terms of talent here in town. We just finished closing our seed round last week, and we're looking around to try to find people in the marketing, the social media marketing side, the website marketing side that are savvy to the wearables and to this area. And it seems kind of difficult to find them. Do you think that's a problem in terms of talent in Vancouver?
No. I think that's probably your easiest piece of the pie in building a company. Figure out who your client is, who's going to pay you, and reverse engineer who your social media person is that's going to go after that industry, that has experience. Find some externalists that have already covered that kind of vertical. From a business perspective, and perhaps that's just that I don't come at this from an engineering or a comp science perspective, I think that social media aspect is something you can get your head around easily and you can understand the ROI in doing it. Hiring an algorithmic specialist to build some mathematical model is, I think, much, much harder.
And I would also add to that.
The reverse for me.
Talk to Ryan at Hootsuite. He's hiring everybody in social media. Yeah. And so for our next question from Twitter, I think we quickly touched on this, but I think Dan, you and Mark touched on this. 50% of wearable users stop wearing their wearable after a few months. Why? How can we change that?
Yeah, I think the biggest factor is just value add. You know, they buy a pedometer or a wristband and they think it's going to change their life. You know, we're missing this key component, which is, you know, Nadeem started with basis, is creating those habits or creating contextual data that actually comes back to adding value to that product. So if you're just looking at steps to change your life, it's not, you know, nothing can motivate you off the couch. Using these contextual, relevant, actionable data is certainly complex to do, but that's the way to key in the retention and reducing attrition of the devices, at least in my mind.
Dan, do you have something?
Yeah, I think you know, a lot of companies that are in this space have spent a lot of time trying to solve that first problem, which I talked about. That is creating this new category and working on the hardware. And maybe they forget a little bit about how tough it actually is to create the experience with software. And that comes a little bit later, and there's a lot of learning to be had in a new category as well. You get feedback from the market, you find out how users are actually, what they like, what they don't like, and then you tweak. So it takes a while before you get that inertia in the market, and then you find out what people want. But you know, and I think Google fell victim to that as well. You know, when they launched Glass, they kind of just brute forced it. And people were sitting with these devices looking stupid and thinking, why am I wearing this? Why do I need it? It's cool, but why should I wear it tomorrow? And it's very difficult for people, even for the nerdiest of the nerds, to say, well, why should I wear it tomorrow? And I think you have to be really, just like you have to be laser focused in your execution in your team, you have to be laser focused on the problem you're solving. And it's not enough to just deliver a PowerPoint and say we have this killer app. You have to really dig in and acknowledge that it takes years to actually get to it. So you have to find out how do you actually keep your customers engaged in the meantime, because you're not going to get it in the first go. And I think it's through your ecosystem, through your partnerships, through starting, you know, simple and building on something that works instead of throwing out a lot of things and you don't know which thing actually worked and which thing didn't. That often leads you to actually getting confused, and then you just stop what you're doing, which you could have just started with a little bit simpler things, and then you'd actually get where you need to be.
So true. Do we have time for another question? Anybody? Is it someone? Okay. I think we have a gentleman over there.
Hi, my name is Ivan. My question is, if I start a hardware company today, should I focus on a niche market or should I go global?
Niche market.
Yeah.
Niche market. Simple question.
Who's backing you financially? You can't do everything. It's impossible. It doesn't matter how big your dream is. You have to start somewhere with that very first customer who's going to pay you that very first dollar. Start there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I ask the panel a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Just because this Twitter showed up and said, what is the best-selling wearable device outside of China? And I want to really quickly, I think we can see the differences, is what is a wearable? How do we define it? And the reason I bring this up is because PwC just did a webinar about 2 weeks ago outlining, you know, their research on wearables. And if I look at this question, according to them, that would be the smartphone. The smartphone would be the #1 selling wearable. So what I wanted to ask and see what our thoughts are, if I've got the time, thank you, is how does everyone define a wearable? Who wants to go first? Probably looking at me.
Well, I mean, I can give it a go. Well, I've had that thought as well, because I was doing a pitch on this and a presentation on it. You know, I think a wearable is unique in that it has a very accessible interface, and it works seamless with, you know, other devices. So you can get data from other devices, and you can get data out of your device. That you can also do with a phone. I agree, but the phone is kind of your pocket interface. It's something you have to take out of somewhere, and then you have to unlock it, and you have to look at it. and typically you can perform more complex things with it. You can write emails, you can do a lot of things with it. A wearable is something that's more in the moment. It's something that you have on your body. It can collect data. It can give you access to that data. So that was kind of a long definition, but I think those are kind of the attributes of a wearable compared to something that is worn, that's kind of hidden away as a brick in your pocket. So accessibility, I think, is probably the biggest part.
Okay, guys, I think this time the alert for earthquake is real. So please join me to thank the panel once more.
Also, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I'd also just like to one more shout out to our technology expert up top who actually monitors our microphones, the other wearable technology. And right now he's monitoring, making sure that we don't really know where Nadeem has run off to. So thank you for that. Just a quick, I think we will have our events up here on the screen, and our next chat is about M&A technology, which is going to be very exciting. We have a panel just in the process with some big names in the funnel. And Brent Holliday is going to be our moderator, and a very exciting panel set up to find out what's new and what's up and coming in mergers and acquisitions, and get some good stories going on. So going forward for the rest of the year, we have some very interesting things coming out, and we'd love to have your input. So if you have a suggestion for a panelist for our upcoming events, we would love to hear. And if you could send an email to admin@vef.org, we will be very happy to provide you a ticket if your suggestion is selected and you're the first one to recommend it. Coming up in February, we're going to be having a show with a lot of buzz around it, pun intended. We are going to be talking about the medical marijuana industry. It's going to be a very exciting show. So that's coming up after the event on M&A. Following that, we're going to be talking about clean tech. We'd be very keen to hear about what you would like to hear about clean tech. So please do let us know. And check out our website, and if you have some other ideas on what you would like to see up here, please let us know. And with that, I would like to recommend everybody that got a very good enjoyment out of this show to buy a membership or become a sponsor. You can see Chris up at the front desk. There's beer over there, food over there, and for a short time, you can capture some of our guests here up front. Thanks very much, everybody.